Good morning. It's day 350. What? That's a big number. Um, Oops. Sorry. I'm staying at home this morning. It was a beautiful sunrise, by the way. I caught it this morning, but I was going to show you. Yeah, my dogs are out here, and but I needed my Bible with me this morning. Y'all were starting to get into the deeper waters of the visions, and gosh, what does it all mean? Like, I see so much, and without being a historian and all that, of course, I'm reading it with God's help because He helps when you ask. Anyway, so really going deep and asking God, like, what are you trying to tell us here? But the number 7 is really significant. It's significant throughout the Bible. And there's a reason God really, I think, wants us to dig deep into that. Like, He gives us some examples, but what is it? Why does it maybe even matter to us personally? And there are patterns, that's what I've been picking up on for the first few books of Revelation is patterns and how they show up. And we have patterns in numbers, and that's how we kind of recognize patterns is even numerically in occurrences. So 7. So let's get into it. So we get deeper into the vision that John shares. And let me set the stage a little bit so it starts to make sense of why I'm like focused on the number 7. And so there's a scroll that's presented, and it has 7 seals on it. And nobody's can open it. Like, it's a sacred seal. It's God's scroll. Nobody is worthy to open it. And then all of a sudden, one of the elders says, wait a minute, what about the Lion of Judah? The one who, referring to Jesus, he can open it. And then along comes, so there's this reference of the lion, but then John turns and he's weeping bitterly. He's like, oh, he's so upset that there's this important scroll in the right hand of God, and nobody can open it because nobody there is worthy. None of the elders are worthy. He's not worthy. Nobody's worthy. The 4 beings that are there aren't worthy. What are we going to do? So he's just distraught and beside himself. And then somebody, one of the elders, it doesn't say who, suggests the Lion of Judah. And then in John's vision, along comes a slaughtered lamb, like an alive but slaughtered lamb. And of course, we recognize this as Jesus, but the lamb has 7 eyes and 7 horns. Lambs don't have horns, but in this vision he does. So we've got a dead or a slaughtered but alive lamb walking up to the front throne, and he goes in between the beings and God. So he's right there with God, and everybody starts bursting out into song. All of the elders we're told, have harps and big bowls of incense, which are all the prayers of all the people. So we have this pattern of 7, and we're told that the 7 eyes and the 7 horns represent the 7-fold Spirit of God. Okay, what's happening here? And then I start thinking about, as I'm, thinking and meditating on this and praying, well, there's a lot of significance to the number 7 throughout the scriptures. And of course, even in time, one of the things I talked about yesterday was we have 7 days a week. So there's a pattern of 7. Joseph was told to forgive his brothers 7 times. And then he was even told, well, 7 times 7. And as long as it takes, crops have to be rotated 7 years. Like, there's a completeness of 7, and then there's a new beginning at 8. So all of these numbers have significance, but specifically, as I was thinking it, and even along with my own experience this year of coming into a new understanding of we live in a three-dimensional world. Humans at our default level are just, that's how we experience life, in sort of 3-4 dimensional experience. Space, time, width, depth, things aren't just flat. They're not 2D, they're 3D. And then of course we have consciousness or an intelligence where we can even kind of think about thinking. And so we have this other, so what's seven about? What's the sevenfold spirit? And then we have our triune understanding of God, and then our triune understanding of ourselves. So we're mind, body, spirit. Most people kind of recognize that as a truth. So and then I thought about even the levels of growth that we go through. We're babies, we're toddlers, we're adolescents, we're young adults, we're middle-aged adults. Then we're, wait a minute, yeah, babies, maybe even in utero babies, toddlers, children, adolescents, young adult, middle-aged adult, and then old age. So we have even those 7 levels of our own existence, and each stage has its own experience. We're different people as we grow. So I thought about dimensions and consciousness and even the cosmic and mystical realm as you start to really spend a lot of time in prayer. And if you're following me, then you've heard me say, but I'll reiterate it, that the Spirit speaks its own language. And when you get quiet and let the Spirit talk to the Spirit, they do their thing, and then you get all kinds of thoughts and ideas that you're like, I know that's not mine. You're connected. You start to understand the oneness of everything. You start to have a different experience of life. And I think there's a lot of significance to this number 7. And then, okay, so here's why I wanted to stay home. And even as I was reading this and they were singing the songs, and then it says in verse 11, this is Revelation chapter 5, verse 11. Then I looked again and I heard the voices of thousands and millions of angels around the throne and of the living beings and the elders. And they sang a mighty chorus. Worthy is the Lamb who was slaughtered to receive. I'm going to hold my hand up for the visual. For those of you that are only listening, just go along with it. Maybe get your own hand out and do the math. To receive power, riches, wisdom, strength, honor, glory, and blessing. That's 7 words. Is this the sevenfold Spirit of God? What you get when you experience the fullness of God, fullness of what you are in God, that there is no separation. God is in you, you are in God, God is in everything. God, and it even says, they sang a new song, you have caused them to become oh, wait a minute, where does it say that? And I heard okay, well, I should have highlighted that too. Oh, here it is. Represent the sevenfold Spirit of God that is sent out into every part of the earth. So there's nothing and nowhere that God doesn't exist. No time. Remember, we were told he's the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end. He is outside of time and space. He created time and space, all of that. So there's nowhere, no time, no place where God is not. And nothing separates you from God, but because we are thinking beings, we separate ourselves from God. We are blocked because we're not seeing with all of our eyes, our 7 different levels of eyes, our actual eye, and even our ears, and the horn. Oh, I started off with that, and then we didn't even talk about the horn. The horn, the significance of that. So in chapter 4, we got the throne kind of sitting above. Well, the The horn also sits on top of the head. There's more than meets the eye. Everything that we think we see, we're not really seeing it as it really is until you become spiritually awake. Your spiritual eyes are open, the eyes of your whole body. Like, we're a whole intelligent system. We're not just a brain, we're a nervous system, we're a gut, we're a body, we're our skin. Like, every part of us is always taking in information and seeing and hearing things and deciphering what it all means, taking what it needs, and then it all comes together. So even when you look at the body, we have our main body, our trunk with all of our organs, then we have our four limbs, we have our head, and then we've got whatever it is about us that holds it all together, and maybe that's the nervous system, that goes throughout all of it. But there's even a sevenfold, thing to us. 7 is a significant number. It's why we track our time that way. We rotate crops. We need rest is an important part of that. And when we live into the fullness, in the sevenfold fullness of what we potentially can be, and we open our spiritual eyes, put on our powerful spiritual awareness and consciousness, we can come into the fullness and receive power, riches, wisdom, strength, honor, and glory and blessing. And we might see ourselves as lambs, but maybe we're really lions. Maybe you see yourself as a lion and you really need to see that you're a lamb. Like, everything, God's world is upside down. Whatever you think, turn it around. Think the opposite. What you think you see, you aren't really seeing. And when you see it, you see it. And when you know it, like Richard Rohr, falling upward is one of my favorite phrases, that when you start to wake up, it's not unlike Alice in Wonderland. You're going into a rabbit hole talking with the Mad Hatter. But you start to have what might seem strange experiences to other people. But then you realize that what you're experiencing is more real than anything that you've ever experienced. And other people are trapped in a 3-dimensional, maybe 4-dimensional reality. And now you're seeing the real reality. And that's what we're invited to. And when you start seeing all the mystery and all the wonder that is in this mystical, wonderful book, and reading in between the lines and what are they saying and trying to connect the dots. And I feel like I'm just awakening. I'm a baby. I'm a spiritual baby, but I'm awakening. And so I know that I've got maybe more levels of glory. I definitely don't feel like I have received power, riches, wisdom, strength, honor, glory, and blessing. Or maybe I'm getting just a little bit of each of those. But the sevenfold Spirit of God, that we also have a sevenfold Spirit because we are in God. God is in us. Okay, Revelation, looking at the significance of patterns and numbers, and specifically, we get a lot of the number 7 in chapter 5. And there is nowhere that God is not. He is on every part of the earth, and He is in all things, with millions and thousands of angels singing in a mighty chorus. Yeah. And every creature in heaven and on earth and under the earth and in the sea sang, blessing, honor, glory, and power belong to the one sitting on the throne and to the Lamb forever and ever. And the 4 living beings said, Amen. And the 24 elders fell down and worshiped the Lamb. All right. Some exciting stuff. All right. Have fun reading revelation. Talk to you tomorrow.